Vladimir Putin, from becoming president to the ongoing war in Ukraine. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is the biggest assault on a European state since World War II, leaving people devastated and worried as the invasion continues. It's also left much of the world looking towards one man, Vladimir Putin. So, who is this leader? Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin grew up in a tough, communal housing block in an area now known as St. Petersburg. It's reported that he got into fights with boys often bigger than him, which drove him to take up judo. His political career began when he and his family moved to Moscow in 1996, and he quickly became an important political figure. By the 1970s, Putin had studied law and joined KGB, the Russian Secret Service. Putin worked mostly behind the scenes and kept a low profile. He reportedly was the man to see if things needed to get done and was Anatoly Sobchak's indispensable man. Sobchak was known to have strong authoritarian tendencies. He was Putin's mentor, and Putin therefore adopted his political technique. Putin was loyal to Sobchak. When Sobchak wasn't re-elected as mayor, the victor offered Putin a job, but Putin turned it down, saying it's better to be hanged for loyalty than to be rewarded for betrayal. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia fell into the hands of Boris Yeltsin, a man who had been trying to become a leader for years. Having led the coup d'etat that forced Gorbachev out of office, Yeltsin became the state's ruler. However, he soon proved to be a disappointment, as imposition of radical reforms left millions of citizens homeless and impoverished. In the Yeltsin era, lasting from 1991 to 1999, a former KGB agent, Vladimir Putin, had started working as first deputy chairman in St. Petersburg and eventually became the first deputy chief of the presidential staff, a position that allowed him to gain prominence and political power. The latter position and years spent in the Federal Security Service made him a trusted ally of Yeltsin, who assigned him to be the prime minister, marking a turning point in his career. When Yeltsin announced his resignation in 1999, Putin, despite being despised by many in the government, became the acting president of the Russian Federation. Although this point was temporary, Yeltsin's resignation forced a new election, which resulted in Putin winning 53% of the votes. But how come people voted for someone who was once the KGB spy and ally of Yeltsin, a man hated by so many? Firstly, Vladimir Putin was able to distinguish himself from Yeltsin during the very first election. This is because Putin ran independently, promising a revitalized economy and continuation of liberal reforms. He stood out once compared to opponents who, for example, represented the well-known Communist Party. For the people sick and tired of the old system, Putin was the hope for change. Secondly, it wasn't only Yeltsin who saw Putin as a loyal successor, but also the majority of Russian oligarchs. This is because Putin, seen as Yeltsin's ally, became a trusted person in the eyes of the oligarchs, who expected him to help when dealing with massive taxation or court trials. By helping Putin to climb to power, they were able to preserve the system of oligarchic capitalism and make the new leader serve their interest. At this point, another question arises: why is Putin still in power? Although Russia often hides behind the image of a democracy, it is one of the biggest authoritarian states. Ever since 2000, Putin has been manipulating laws and passing policies that grant the state greater authority, leaving him with more power. For example, following the Belsen school siege in 2004, Putin passed a law granting more authority to the government and arguing that this was crucial for the protection of the state. Furthermore, the electoral system is so rigged that the true support for the current president is completely unclear. Yet, what is more worrying is the reforms that have been passed in the recent months, since they eliminate all prospects of a potential democracy, paving the path for eternal presidency. In July 2020, Russia held a referendum on constitutional amendments. One of the latter was related to resetting presidential term limits. Prior to the vote, Putin was supposed to leave office in 2024, yet, having received the popular mandate, he will be able to remain the president of Russia until 2036, and this should not be taken lightly. Ironically enough, people's vote never mattered. Prior to the referendum, the new constitutional amendments, together with one-on-one presidential term limits, had been approved by the Duma, courts, and regional governments. This is only a drop in the ocean of proof that Russia is not a democracy. It is a state ruled by Putin and his circle, not people's voices. Holding the referendum was simply a way to pretend that Russia is a democratic state, regardless of the result. The referendum allowed Putin to shut down those who thought the state was authoritarian and to get Western watchdogs off his back. With all of this in mind, a question about Russia's future and its political progress arises. Given the results of the referendum, we are unlikely to see any changes in Russian leadership. The new reform can only be changed following the death or stepping down of the current president. Yet even then, we are likely to see another leader close to the current government in power. This is similar in the case of Dmitry Medvedev, a close ally of Putin who won the 2008 presidential elections, assigned Putin as his prime minister, and left office in 2012, leaving the presidential post to his predecessor. Events like this prove that the current government is capable of manipulating the system in a way that allows it to stay in power forever. Hence, even after 2036, we're likely to see another ally of Putin in power. With all of this in mind, people are forced to live in fear and are brought back to the times of the Soviet Union, as opposition does not exist and a single comment or disagreement can cost a career, family, or even life. The future also does not seem too bright since current events prove that the government can act completely independently. We're likely to see more authoritarian reforms like these taking place, yet the policies are likely to become even more radical, posing the risk of any opposition being shut down immediately. What are your thoughts on this topic? Leave a comment in the comments section. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Stay tuned for the next video. Bye.